Welcome to another C2 Proficiency ESL-lounge reading lesson video. Today we will be reading the reports that 4 journalists wrote on a press conference to analyze how different writers can interpret the very same event in completely different ways. Let's begin with some vocabulary. Abundantly, in large quantities, plentifully. Accredited, officially recognized or authorized. Ammunition, considerations that can be used to support one's case in debate. Beleaguered, in a very difficult situation. Blatant, done openly and unashamedly. Convened, came or brought together for a meeting or activity, assembled. Deflection, the action of causing something to change direction, avoiding a topic. Disarming, having the effect of allaying suspicion or hostility, especially through charm. Exasperation, a feeling of intense irritation or annoyance. Farce, an absurd event, a comic dramatic work. Obfuscation, the action of making something obscure, unclear, or unintelligible. Truculent, eager or quick to argue or fight, aggressively defiant. Great. Now you know the key words. Let's read the texts. You are going to read 4 reports from journalists on the same event. Read them carefully to understand each journalist's perspective. Afterwards, you will answer 10 questions to check your interpretation of each report. Okay, let's start with text A. Alistair Finch, political editor, The Daily Chronicle. In a commanding and frankly masterful performance, the minister yesterday faced down his critics with a display of unwavering resolve. He navigated a barrage of often hysterical questioning with a calmness and precision that systematically dismantled the more outlandish accusations against him. He was unflappable. Acknowledging minor administrative oversights with a disarming frankness, he masterfully reframed the entire narrative. He took time to remind the assembled press corps of the government's wider successes on the international stage. His tone was not defensive, but rather one of weary patience with the media's obsessive focus on trivial procedural matters over substantive policy. He was firm. He made it abundantly clear that he had no intention of being diverted from his essential work. He dismissed the affair as what he termed a manufactured storm in a teacup. By the end of the half hour, he had effectively drawn a line under the whole issue. He left his detractors with precious little ammunition for any further credible attacks. It was a textbook lesson in political crisis management from a seasoned operator. End of text A. Let's continue. Dr. Rowan Salter, political analyst, The Sentinel. The minister's press conference yesterday was a fascinating, if deeply cynical, case study in the art of the non-apology and strategic deflection. While appearing to address the substance of the very serious allegations, his responses were, upon any closer inspection, masterclasses in polished evasion. He frequently employed the classic tactic of answering a question he wished he had been asked, rather than the one that was actually posed to him. Furthermore, his repeated characterization of what appear to be serious ethical breaches as mere procedural hiccups was a quite deliberate attempt to trivialize their significance. What was most striking to me was the unspoken subtext of it all. It was a thinly veiled contempt for the very principle of public accountability. His performance was polished, certainly, but it was the polish of a man who believes himself to be entirely above scrutiny or reproach. The core issues at the heart of the scandal? They remain entirely unaddressed and shrouded in obfuscation. The public deserves better. End of text B. Let's continue. Elias Thorne, political correspondent, Global News Agency. The Minister for Transport addressed the media for 32 minutes yesterday at a press conference convened to respond to the ongoing controversy surrounding the HS4 rail contract. It was a packed room. He began with a prepared statement lasting approximately 7 minutes. In it, he outlined the official timeline of the procurement process from his department's perspective. He then took questions from 12 accredited journalists representing various national and international outlets. A significant number of these questions focused on the series of undeclared meetings between his department and the winning bidder. The minister stated that all such meetings were fully documented and compliant with all ministerial codes. He provided no additional documentary evidence to support these claims. He then declined to answer a specific question regarding his long-standing personal acquaintance with the CEO of the company involved. He stated this was not relevant to the matter at hand. The press conference concluded at 14:33. The opposition has since called for an independent inquiry into the affair. The government has not yet responded. End of text C. Let's continue. Genevieve Scott, political sketch writer, The Evening Standard. It was a performance of almost comical defiance from the minister today. Looking beleaguered but truculent, he adopted the posture of a weary headmaster telling off a room full of particularly unruly schoolchildren. He was clearly irritated. He batted away inconvenient questions with a sigh of exaggerated exasperation. It was as if the whole business of being held to account was a colossal waste of his extremely valuable time. At one point he launched into a lengthy, completely irrelevant monologue about a recent successful trade delegation to Singapore. The diversion was so blatant it drew audible murmurs of disbelief from the assembled press pack. His attempts to appear in command were consistently undermined by a nervous tic just below his left eye. He also had a tendency to repeat his key defensive phrases like a mantra. It was not so much a press conference as a piece of political theatre. And a rather unconvincing one at that. He left the stage not having calmed the storm, but having added a fresh and delicious layer of farce to the proceedings. Okay, time for a few questions to check your understanding. Question 1. Which journalist adopts a neutral, factual tone, avoiding any explicit interpretation or opinion? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. Elias Thorne. The text simply reports events, such as he provided no additional documentary evidence, without adding any interpretive or emotional language, which is the definition of a neutral, factual tone. Question 2. Which journalist suggests the minister succeeded in making his critics appear unreasonable? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. Alistair Finch. The text claims the minister navigated a barrage of often hysterical questioning that systematically dismantled the more outlandish accusations, framing the critics' questions as unreasonable. Question 3. Which journalist portrays the press as united in their reaction to the minister's behavior? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Genevieve Scott. The text describes audible murmurs of disbelief from the assembled press pack, which portrays the group of journalists reacting together as one. Question 4. Which journalist implies the minister was manipulating public perception of his accountability? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Dr. Rowan Salter. The text describes his characterization of serious issues as mere procedural hiccups, as a deliberate attempt to trivialize their significance, which is a clear example of manipulating perception. Question 5. Which journalist portrays the minister as failing to project the authority he intended? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Genevieve Scott. The text says his attempts to appear in command were consistently undermined by a nervous tic, which shows he failed to project authority. Question 6. Which journalist presents the minister as having outmaneuvered his opponents? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. Alistair Finch. The text concludes that the performance was a textbook lesson in political crisis management, which is a clear summary of the view that the minister successfully outmaneuvered his critics. Question 7. Which journalist suggests the minister views accountability as beneath his status? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Dr. Rowan Salter. The text identifies an unspoken subtext of thinly veiled contempt for the very principle of public accountability, implying he feels it is beneath him. Question 8. Which journalist records an instance where the minister openly sidestepped a query? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. Elias Thorne. The text reports that he then declined to answer a specific question. Question 9. Which journalist treats the minister's performance as entertainment rather than accountability? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Genevieve Scott. The text explicitly states that it was not so much a press conference as a piece of political theatre, treating it as a performance. Question 10. Which journalist exposes a calculated deception in the minister's approach to questioning? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Dr. Rowan Salter. The text explains that while appearing to address the substance, his responses were masterclasses in polished evasion, which exposes a calculated deception. Let's quickly summarize the lesson. On this screen you can review the main points of the text and the key vocabulary. Finally, here are a few discussion questions. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching this ESL Lounge video. Don't forget to subscribe for more lessons, and we'll see you in the next one.